community calendar or to the events page
Okay.
to bring it up.
Thank you.
How easy is it to change those pictures? So of the rotating pictures, could you flip up like a St. Patrick's Day picture if we were having a big St. Patrick's Day event?
Yes. So the slideshow, yeah, it's just in the back end tool, so I can go in and change photos at any time.
Leslie, can you show us how, let's say I wanted to view the next city council meeting agenda. How many clicks away is that?
Yep, so you can go two ways, a couple ways. One is if you go to Kenmore in Action and you go to the City Council page. The other one is just to connect with City Council. So if you click on that, and then under the meeting information, you could click on live stream the video if you're watching from your home or from a mobile device, on-demand video or your agenda. So you click on the agenda, and that will take you to redirect you to the File Pro page. And then you'll have to click on the agenda there.
Okay.
And another way is if you went to the community calendar and you clicked on the city council meeting, then you it would redirect you directly to the city council.
Oh, good. Okay, so there's three ways you can find a... Yeah, that's important. Sometimes people think differently about how to find things, so if you've got three ways to find something as important as this, that's good.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor?
Could you go back to the home page again, please, Leslie? I like the looks of it, and with the changing pictures that are representative of Kenmore. But my question is, what are those blue dots down the lower right?
So
Did you explain that? I missed that if you did.
So that's the slideshow. So those are the images. So if you click on one,
Okay.
you could see, like, you could rotate them yourself. So say you're like, oh, what was that image of?
I
You
gotcha.
can scroll
Okay.
back and see. And then also there's this image slide camera right there, so you can see actually who the credit for the photographer is as well.
Okay.
So if there's any residents or photographers that are interested in submitting photos, they could submit those as well, and then we can provide credit. So that's how we actually received a couple of these, was from residents.
Okay, another question is, on the events and so on, are there pictures associated with those events?
On the community calendar?
Yeah, or not on the calendar per se, but what I'm
Yes.
thinking, I'm trying to figure out if there's a place on here where we can put Hank Aaron on.
Okay.
And I don't,
Well,
yeah, fair. It's been in the email. People know about it. Okay. But can you put graphics on this too?
yes.
Okay. Good.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm just going to talk.
Go for it.
Go ahead, Casey.
I'm sitting here waving to you.
If the mayor wants to
Can
say
you go to
okay, I
the
will.
parks page? Do you have that Kaboom map of play linked still that we have on the current?
Oh my gosh. No, I can't find it.
Life in
That's not
Kenmore.
good. Thank you. It's a different view. Okay. So you have the recreation guide,
Oh, you do have it, Kaboom.
and then the master plan, and then the Kaboom and Love.
Where does that go? Can you click the
Kaboom?
Kaboom? Is it just take you to the Kaboom website?
It does.
Okay. Because we did have it as the map of play before, but that's fine. They can find it.
I could see if that's possible as well, if their link will redirect there.
Yeah, I thought that we had it that way at one point.
Okay.
That's kind of a cool place to map all the parks.
But
Do you have the desert? desert
You know,
map?
I just got it, so I've got to look at it. I've had her make a few changes, and then I'll send it out.
Councilman Smith?
I have one more question for you, Leslie. Could you go back to the parks link, or I can't remember which, let's see, what do we have here? So would it be possible under the recreation area maybe to have, I don't know if it's going beyond the scope of what we should be doing, but maybe to have a link to some of the local, like, youth organizations. It could be junior football or NS, whatever the soccer, I can't even remember what the acronym is, but just Little League, whatever it is, and then just, if it was like maybe even just a point of contact or something with somebody at some of those, would that be easy to add, or is that within the scope of it's community information? I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that?
I believe
Okay.
that wouldn't be an issue.
Anybody else? Councilmember Square.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Leslie, for all your hard work here. Hey, under the Parks and Recreation, it says myparksandrec.com. Is that, what is that one? Does that have any sign-ups or anything?
This is part of the eCityGov.
Okay.
And so this allows you to not just view parks that are in Kenmore, but in the members of the eCityGov. So you could do a recreation search or a park trail facility search, and you can go in and look at Kenmore specifically.
Okay.
Or you can select other cities as well. So this is part of the eCityGov Alliance.
So the recreation search, back to Councilmember Smith's question, is this more maybe what a city that funds like a rec center or classes? Is that kind of what you would find here most likely?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
Leslie, can you tell us about next steps when we go live and all that?
So I'm going to be wrapping up content over the next week, and then hoping to launch mid-March.
Okay.
So that's the next steps. And then, of course, we'll solicit feedback from the public and see if there's any testing issues or usability, and then make any changes as necessary as well.
Yeah.
Councilmember Curtis?
What's your plan for maintenance? That's the challenge with these sort of things. They look wonderful, and then in a year, they're, a quarter of the things are outdated.
Yes. So we do plan on creating like some we have already established some website teams internally, so we will continue those and just continue to remind folks to take a look at their pages and go in and edit them as well. But it is a challenge to do. It is a challenge.
But one thing we are going to be doing this time is empowering more people with edit
Yes.
capability. Mm-hmm. So rather than just a couple people with that ability, we're going to have more people in the organization, and so it'll behoove departments to keep their own content current.
Councilmember Sperry?
Leslie, do you still have the ability to sign up for text messaging?
Oh, you do. Sorry. That is a good point. So on the Stay Up to Stay Informed, part of the Gov delivery function is you can do the subscription type. So you can sign up for email text alerts. So instead of getting it through your email, you would get it through as a text message instead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Danuski?
Is there anywhere here that people can go to look for volunteer opportunities?
Yes. So under actually two places. So Life in Kenmore, you can go find volunteer opportunities here, as well as under resident services.
Okay, cool.
So you've made the demographic data pretty much static, and so they're not leaving the site. But on the parks, somebody trying to research Kenmore because they might want to move here can go to parks, and then they can find out about the Issaquah Park, the Bothell Parks, all the other parks, right?
Well, we have
In other words, we're not keeping them on our site.
For the parks, we have a list of our own city parks.
Right.
But they do have the option to visit, under the eCityGov,
Yeah,
one of
that's right.
we have My Parks and Rec. So we're promoting that through our website as well. So it would take them, yes, they could find other parks regionally, but it also will give them the parks location in Kenmore. It's just another source for them to find the information.
Right. I guess I feel that once we've got them here, we want to keep them here, so when we're sending them off other places, that was one of my concerns. Okay. Anything else?
I like it.
Yeah,
it's
great
nice and
job.
clean.
Thank you.
Good
Looking
job.
forward to this
A lot of
coming
work,
live.
a lot of work.
Thank you to the council website subcommittee and then staff as well for all their efforts. So, thank you.
Yeah, and former council member Glenn Rogers even weighed in a couple weeks ago because he was on that subcommittee as well, so we appreciate his help.
One more thing on the text message. No, you can shut it down. On the text messaging, when we have like snow events or flooding events or whatever, you'll be putting out text for that sort of thing, or what do you envision the text
We
message?
could, if there, so it can be used for like news releases and items like that. So if there, like a news release goes out about, snow alert, snow is coming, and
It's
then
just you're kind of limited to the number of characters you can use, so that's why I was
yes,
curious.
and then also the number of text messages as well on an annual basis.
Right. Okay.
But they have to sign up to receive text messages. So if they sign up for email, then they would get it via email.
Right.
If they sign up for text message, they would get it via text message.
Or they get them both.
Yes.
Councilmember Herbig?
Sorry, I'm cheating, and I went to the website on the iPad. I was just kind of looking around what you guys were presenting. I was curious, one thing I haven't been able to find, and I'm sure it's in here somewhere, but are just the Kenmore Municipal Code or a link to it?
It will be. It's
Okay.
it will be under the codes and plans.
Okay,
page.
okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Looks good, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Next item on the agenda is the 2014 year-end development services report. Mr. Hanson?
Good evening, Council, Mayor. This is the 2014 Development Services Report, and I don't have any presentations, and I was just going to go off the agenda bill item that you guys received. And I wasn't going to specifically read through the whole thing. I wanted to hit on the highlights. And at any time during my discussion, if you have any questions, just feel free to stop me. I'll pretty much just go page by page so you can follow along. So I wanted to start by pointing out the people who are involved with Development Services Review. And it's not just necessarily contained to the Development Services Department. It's definitely citywide, including people who don't work for the city, like the fire marshal, the police chief, North Shore Utility District. But there's a wide variety of people from all different departments who contribute to the success of what we do. And one of those, of course, was the residential building permits that we issued for the Spencer 68 project this year. And also, as everybody else knows, we received the AWC Municipal Excellence Award for the streamlining our lien process for looking at streamlining our permit process. And now through mybuildingpermit.com, almost all of our permits are can be obtained online. You can apply for permits and get them online. So that's good news. This year I wanted to point out that we had an upward trend in all the development services activities. The land use revenues increased 98%, and the application increased 46% compared to 2013. Although engineering permits decreased, the revenues decreased, the actual permits increased from the revenues from 2013 decreased. And I think it was mainly because of a few large single-family plats that we had. The building permit revenue increased from last year, and we also processed 93 new single-family homes in 2014 compared to 58 in 2013, which is probably higher than recent years, at least the last 5 years on our single-family house. And I think it's also important to point out, and that's in addition to this fire sprinkler ordinance that we have. So I know that you might remember some comments that we received a couple of years ago about what fire sprinklers would do to homes and our single-family applications. We haven't, I don't think it actually affected them Just another good thing to point out too is since we implemented that ordinance, I haven't received one complaint regarding the cost or the installation or the maintenance of those systems.
I think we flushed quite a bit of that out during the process, right? When we had
That's correct.
the builders involved in the process, the master builders involved in the process. I think that made a whole lot of difference. I think we
Yeah.
were able to do that.
I agree. You know, we had the big public community involvement, so we got to flush out a lot of concerns and stuff through that. And I know a lot of other cities, I should say at least one other city adjacent to us is looking at the process that we did in Kenmore to try to emulate it for their city. I'm going to move on to the graphs. And
I just had a comment that where you talk about the highlights for the complex projects, I love it that you put like 8 weeks or 3 months or how long it actually took to get that thing permitted. That's pretty amazing.
yeah, we thought so too. That's why we figured, hey, let's just point this out and make sure that we tell our story when we're doing this because, you know, everybody really pulled together to make sure that this stuff went pretty quickly. So thanks. So as you can see from the summary of the total revenues table, the 2014 year was comparable to the pre-recession era. The next figure shows the construction trends, and you can see they're cyclical in nature. But one important part to point out is the period between the two waves has decreased. What that is really saying is before, when developers would come in for an application, they'd wait longer before they actually built it. And now it's really right on the heels of when they come in for their application and when they're constructing the project. The land use revenues paid, or table on page 7 of 13, you know, it's looking pretty good comparable to the recent years, and it's, you know, it's more than the 2008 period. Although this graph doesn't go back far enough, 2005 was our highest land use year. So we're not quite there, and I don't expect that we will get there anytime soon. But you can see from the applications that we received these years, the applications are comparable to the pre-recession years, although the revenue isn't. Moving on to the table where it breaks down each land use application per year. You can see that 2014 we had 10 accessory dwelling unit applications. That makes 48 total accessory dwelling unit applications since that ordinance went into effect, to kind of show you what we're dealing with on the dwelling units, the accessory dwelling units. The commercial site development permit, we didn't receive any in 2014, and that number is, you know, stayed consistently low since 2007 and 2008. The other few, the bigger main projects that we see that take up a lot more of our time and create more revenue would be the multifamily development and the long plat and the short plats. The multifamily, we did get a new multifamily project in 2014, and previously to that, the last one was 2009. And a good one to show or to point out is the short plat application, where we received 10 of those in 2014, which is a substantial increase from, you know, back to 2007. The engineering permit revenue, again, I think it decreased mainly because of the East Creek project that we received in 2013. This graph is kind of interesting because it shows it's not really cyclical in nature as most of the other graphs. And I think that's due to because we used to lump the engineering permits into the land use permits. And so the inspection fees were contracted through another company. In about 2012, we started doing in-house inspections and getting more revenue for those. I think that's what the main big jump was in 2013 and 2014, was the inspection fees that are associated to the engineering permits. Let's see, moving on to the right-of-way permits. Sorry, this graph didn't show the actual years, but in 2014 we processed 134 right-of-way permits, which is pretty comparable back to 2000 and what would that be, 10, when we started doing right-of-way permits. Before that, it was all contracted through King County. No questions. Moving on to the building permits. The 2014, we saw a 54 increase in permit revenue for the building permits. I think that mainly have to do with the Spencer 68 project and the new single-family permits that we received. So I think next year probably be a little bit lower on the building permit applications. I'm going to move forward to the building permit applications per the year. It's on page 11, bottom of page 11. And that's where it shows the different single-family applications that we received in 2014. So that was in the 93. And you could see that, prior to 2007, we weren't processing that many single-family building permits. Another one to point out is the multifamily. Now, this is different from the multifamily land use application, or the application that I was talking about earlier. That's the planning application. This is the actual construction permit. So we permitted 11 new multifamily projects in 2014. Moving on to inspections, if there aren't any questions.
Not seeing it.
Okay.
Keep looking.
The inspections have pretty well remained constant over the last 4 years. We're processing about 2,600 inspections a year, and that ranges from everything from building to right-of-way, grading. Code enforcement. I'll have to admit there's an error on this page. In 2014, there are still some active code enforcement cases. It's only 40. So as you can see from the active at the end of the year, code enforcement cases have decreased since 2010. And if you notice, all of the permits, or all of the code enforcement cases that have been opened and closed and active at the end of the year have all decreased. So this is what this is showing is in 2014, we received approximately 172 complaints. Out of that, we closed 241 complaints, and some of those were carryovers from the previous year. And then at the end of the year at 2014, there was 41 open activity or open cases. And those can be not necessarily code violations. It could be just open concerns that somebody may have with a junk vehicle or something that needs to be wrapped up.
So one of the reasons why you're seeing this decline in code enforcement cases is because it's been about resource management. And we were seeing an increase in development activity. And so rather than add a new development review person, we decided to take the code enforcement position and have a portion of it go towards development review and a portion of it towards code enforcement. So what that meant was less self-initiated code enforcement cases on the city's part. And so we went to more of a complaint basis than going out and looking for things in self-initiating cases.
Do you think?
Any questions?
You.
Hepner.
A little clarification on that last comment. Could it also be that there aren't as many code violations? You're not getting the complaints, you're not complaint driven. Are you assuming that there still are the same number of code violations, but we're not enforcing it?
So our prior code enforcement officer, before he retired, his full-time job was code enforcement. That's what he did all day long. So in addition to receiving complaints, he would go out and find things. Not the case now with the person who took his place. This person is now doing both building inspections and plan review and code enforcement. So this person that's on board now has less time to go out and actively look for things.
Okay.
Anything else? So what they, Councilmember Starr.
Well, first of all, thank you. This was, I knew it was getting busy, but this really showed you're getting busy. So as far as adjusting to, I mean, you're still getting great times and getting these permits out. Are you guys pulling in more contracted staff, or just everybody's pedaling faster and leaner, or?
All the above.
Okay.
We do. We are expecting to bring in some additional contracted staff to help us on the permitting and processing portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
But we are definitely seeing a bigger wave of development. My next report that I want to bring to you guys is to include the timeframes that we've seen over the past and what we're currently seeing, so we can get a good understanding of our staffing level.
Okay.
So my goal is to put that together before your next quarterly report.
Thank you.
Well, and if I can help answer that, Brian, being the good department head that he is, is advocating for additional regular staff, and he's got data to back it up. But the Great Recession is in recent memory, and I don't know if we're in a peak or if we're in the steady. And if we're in a peak, we don't staff for peaks. We staff for something in between the peak and the trough. And so I still am a little bit gun shy about adding staff that are associated with this type of work, because the bottom could fall out of the economy again, and I don't want to be in a situation where we're telling good people that they no longer have a job. So anyway, that's the tension that we're experiencing with this increase in workload.
I agree, and it's a lot more difficult nowadays to predict revenues and development activities that are going to occur.
Anything else? So there's no action taken except we'll receive the report if there's no objections. We will receive the report. And thank you very much. I appreciate your work.
Good job.
I appreciate all the comments we're getting too. Yep. From the people coming to get permits and development stuff with all the compliments you get. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, SR 522 West State Bid Award. This is a release, and Mr. Vaughn. Mr. Vaughn, thank you very much for Hank Herron. And we will be discussing interim comments and initiatives, and I'm sure it will be quite a lively discussion.
I might have to go get the visual aid.
So,
pull it up on the laptop.
Oh.
So if you have the opportunity, you might want to hear the things that may be planned for Hank, and one of the council members, Brent Smith, even suggested that maybe there was a Mrs. Herring, Hillary.
Oh, boy.
That's too political. How about Helen?
Or so. But in any event,
Helga.
maybe he has to
Esther.
have a courtship first. Anyway, on to agenda at hand.
All right, thanks, Mayor and Council. We're here this evening to request authorization to award the 522 West A contract to low bid Marshbank Construction and give a brief overview of what we've been up to with construction preparations. As you know, with PSRC's approval to move the $721,000 in right-of-way funds to construction, the construction phase is now fully funded. Thanks to Rob and Chris and Nancy and others and the mayor as well for getting that approved. As you know, we received 4 bids on December 17th. Marshbank was the low bid at around $10 million. Staff has reviewed the bid for accuracy and completeness and has deemed the bid to be responsive and has reviewed the contractor's qualifications and deemed the contractor to be responsible. In terms of preparations, staff has been busy actively getting the word out for construction. Our consultants in Enviro Issues have gone out and done a pre-construction survey of 522 businesses, 181st and 175th businesses as well, just to get some contact information, get some feedback about the project, get some concerns that they have so that we're well versed in that. We've updated the city project webpage, which I see is going to be changing here in about 2 weeks. And we've developed another webpage for construction updates. We're going to get our construction notice signs with funding partners out installed along the corridor on 61st Avenue this week. And we're going to put up variable message signs with notices for motorists to get them acclimated to construction is on its way. Again, we're going to be sending postcards out to nearby residences and businesses with a 24-hour project hotline and information to receive updates. And also, we have a full-page ad that will be printed in the Kenmore Reporter, the next printing. Our construction management team is now in City Hall, so they're actively working on pre-construction and getting organized. And also, you probably are aware that PSC Gas is out on the corridor. They're doing some relocations of main and services in preparation for the construction, and that'll be approximately 3 weeks duration. We don't anticipate that the contractor will be out there until April. And with that, our staff recommendation is to authorize the city manager to execute contract 14C1328 with Marshbank Construction in the amount of $10,029,640.85 to construct the 522 West A project, plus a 10% contingency for a total contracting authority of $11,033,000. And all of this is in the project budget. With that, open up to questions, comments.
Questions? Councilman Sperry.
Well, first of all, thank you. I know this is a huge amount of work to get here. I was curious about the contractor, Marshbank, if it's one that you have any previous experience with.
Marshbank is the, wrong way, Marshbank is the contractor that I was working with on the Aurora project in Shoreline before I left.
Oh, good.
It's still got the wrong way? No, you're not plugged in. All right, let's try this again.
No, your plug is unplugged.
I'm unplugged, I can just switch.
Both of them are.
Oh, my goodness. Well, there you go.
Now you got
How
it.
about that? Thank you, Nancy. Marshbank Construction is the contractor. I have worked with them before on the Aurora project in Shoreline, and that was approximately a $20 million project, and the components were very similar. Undergrounding utilities, stormwater vaults, new lighting, signals. So I have every confidence that they are going to be a great fit for our project, and this scope and scale of project is definitely within their ability.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Councilmember Herbig.
I was just intrigued, you mentioned a 24-hour project hotline. Who's going to be picking that up?
That's part of the scope of Enviro issues, so they'll have a phone that they'll answer and you have the ability to leave a message as well if it's not immediate, but that's a big part of their scope, is to be there and ready to respond. So,
Okay.
and that's if a steel plate gets dislodged or something like that, and somebody's calling 10 o'clock at night, they're going to pick it up and they're going to call the contractor to get out there and fix it. So,
But we do hope after hours that only true emergencies get called to the hotline, because they will answer the phone in the middle of the night and make things happen. They'll have all the contact information, emergency information, and it's very standard on a project of this size to have someone carry, and they might share it amongst a group of people, but someone that knows our project will have that phone.
Any other questions? Councilmember Danuski.
When do we expect the project to be complete?
it's approximately 14, 16 months. Depends on, go ahead, Rob.
I'm saying 2 years. So I'm trying to lower expectations.
Already?
Yeah. And I'm telling people it's going to be terrible out there, and in length and in just congestion and everything. And I mean, the bat lanes are going to go away early on in the project.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And we're going to lose the 61st leg down to 171st for most of the project. And so I'm really trying to, but anyway, that's a long answer to the question, how long is it going to last? But
I've been using 2 years as well. And the reality is if we have an incredibly horrible winter next year, we allow they shut down around the holidays, and sometimes it's just better to shut down construction and let the contractor pick up when weather. So we're gonna, we do play it by ear. Every single day we make the determination, is today a working day? Mm-hmm. And there can be, and it doesn't mean the contractor is not working. That's the hard part. But if they're not working on their critical path task that day, and then it's not considered a working day. So we track every single day. We do a weekly statement of working days. We sign it. It's very, very official.
So the contract has 280 working days, and if you assume that there's 20 working days in a month, that's where I get the 14 months. And if we shut down during the winter for a couple of months, but with change orders, you could potentially add some contract time. With bad weather, you wouldn't necessarily charge a working day, so it can go onwards of,
yeah, and we're also extremely concerned about the businesses and how they're going to fare, and so we're doing a lot to advertise that the businesses are open during construction. We're going to have lots of signage, including signage at each driveway, correct? Each driveway that's affected.
Yeah, we're going to have some blue business signs that say businesses open during construction, and also delineators so you can tell where the driveways are. They'll be water filled.
We're also going to be taking out full-page ads in the Kenmore Reporter, telling people to shop local and to support these businesses, because the inclination is to avoid the area during construction, to drive away and around and go anywhere but the project. And we're telling people, no, we want you to go out of your way to help these businesses. So,
Deputy Mayor.
Chris, what was your experience over in Shoreline in terms of businesses that didn't make it through the construction? And I'm not sure that we really lost anybody on the rest of 522 here.
Well, I'm not I'm not aware of businesses that didn't make it, at least in the piece I was working on. It took quite a bit of time, but we really wanted that data to really understand how business was going through construction. And the trends we observed is that destination businesses, you're going to go to Les Schwab on purpose and have some work done on your car. A destination business, they did a lot better than the impulse businesses. You're going to swing in and get a hamburger, or you're going to, I need to go pick up something really quick and it wasn't on my mind. So it's the impulse businesses that had a harder time. Because it was more difficult construction, and maybe impulse businesses, you don't need as much time, or there's more options. I'm not sure, but those are the trends that we saw.
Councilmember Sperry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Night work. Will there be night work in this project?
We anticipate that there will be night work. There's provisions in the contract for the contractor to request night work, and we'll review each request as they come. But we do anticipate that utility crossings will be installed at night. It's just with the amount of traffic, it's difficult to shut down lanes for any length of time. So,
And we talked at length when putting the project together about noise. I specifically remember, I think it was Bob Green came to council and said, I'm very concerned about the cumulative impacts of noise in the area. And so we've got language in the specs that talk about managing noise. So I think back to Rob's point, there will be times when there will be night work and it will be noisy. And we will do our best to work with the contractor, minimize saw cutting is very loud. Try to get that stuff done maybe in the evening, but early. So it is very much on our radar and something we care about.
We'll be handing out free earplugs.
That's good.
So part of the problems that we had last time was big steel plates being dropped when they were covering up trenches in that, early in the morning. Dust. We had a policy that the people that lived right next to the construction would clean their houses from the dust that was accumulating inside.
Moved them out.
We had a policy that if the noise was bad, we would move them out. We would pay for some nights in a motel during the worst of it. And what's changed this time in that we had to more or less work at night last time. WashDOT would not really allow us to work during the daytime. They wanted all the work at night. So that's changed this time?
I mean, a lot of the work is along the perimeters, so you can shut down the bat lane and still maintain 2 lanes of traffic in each direction. But when you're crossing with utilities and specific work items, you're going to want to do that at night.
Right.
I think it's very similar to the other phases. However, I think in phase 2, did we actually construct bat lanes where they were existing?
They were pretty much there, but there was things going on.
There was widening, yeah. But so I'm not sure exactly how much night work we're gonna receive, but it's a case-by-case basis. It's reviewed by staff, and we do have mitigation measures in place to hold the contractor to when we do approve night work.
If you're running the utilities across the street, right, you're trenching, and you're going to obviously be covering them with steel plates during the day because you can't finish it in one night. So, I mean, I hope that we can hold and the other one that we got was the beep, beep, beep from trucks backing up. And those were a couple of the issues that we got most of the complaints for. So I'm hoping to kind of control some of that stuff this time around.
Well, and our strategy is actually per our code, night work from the city does not require any special permissions, but per our rules, but we specifically put in the contract that they have to get permission and they have to develop a plan. So we figured instead of trying to think of any circumstance that might possibly exist, us requiring the plan, the notice, the plan, the strategy, and us having the opportunity to provide feedback, was the best way to manage what they're doing on any given occasion. And it is expected that they have 2 lanes of traffic in each way at all times. That is the kind of basic assumption.
How did Bothell get away from?
Yeah, how did Bothell get away with it?
They
That's
didn't
my
do that.
expectation for our community. I can't speak to what Bothell did.
Yeah. Okay.
Because there's what WashDOT might allow, and then there's what we expect to see. And that
Remember,
doesn't mean,
remember
Last time said-
our motto is better than Bothell.
Right,
And-
but WashDOT has said we had to remain 2 lanes open, so I'm just wondering. how could they
WashDOT
get away
didn't
with
tell
1
us
lane
that.
with WashDOT?
That's our
That's our,
expectation. And I think
Okay.
we also have a bat lane that we have, that much pavement to work with. They might have been, I don't want to throw any rocks at them, they might have had some restrictions that we don't have. And there may be times when I say, okay, we have to go down to 1 lane for some reason, but that'll be thought through and not an automatic.
yeah, we were required to maintain 2 lanes during the last phase of construction out there, so they would not allow us to go to 1 during daylight hours. Councilmember Smith?
Actually, I think, Chris, you just answered what I was going to ask about when it does, because I know it's inevitable that you will have to go to 1 lane for something here and there. Are there restrictions on with regards to rush hour timing and stuff? Because that obviously would be a sensitive issue for some people.
Well, we always take into account the time of day, and we also look at which direction the traffic is.
Right.
So AM peak, PM peak, volumes. It's just such a high volume roadway.
We wouldn't allow it. It would be 9 a.m. to 3:30ish. Beyond those points in the morning and evening, we'd want those lanes open.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? City Manager?
So I heard one of you mention about how we put people up in hotels last time. That is not my expectation this time, so I don't want to offer that up. Maybe there might be a real medical reason backed up by a doctor's opinion or something to have somebody need to be put up elsewhere. They might have like a head injury that they're recovering from and they can't be around the noise, and if a doctor concurs, then yeah, maybe, this may be a situation like that, but I don't want to create an expectation that we're going to be putting people up in hotels.
Well, I think it's a little different on the other phase. There were residences 75 feet from where they were working on the other side of 175th. You don't have those residences in this section. You've got them going up the hill, and the sounds do go up the hill, but I don't think it'd be nearly as disruptive as it was down there.
Except for all those residences on 181st on the south side.
Yeah.
That are about 75 feet away, 100.
Yeah, okay, maybe so.
All right, any other questions, comments? So Chair will entertain a motion to authorize the city manager to execute contract number 14-C1328 with Marshbank Construction, Inc. in the amount of $10,029,640.85 to construct SR 522 West A, Transportation Element 6 project, plus a 10% contingency for total contracting authority of $11,033,000.
So moved.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Clerk, please take the roll.
Mayor Baker,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Van Ness,
Yes?
Councilmember Smith,
Yes?
Councilmember Curtis,
Yes.
Councilmember Herbeck,
Yes.
Councilmember Sperry,
Yes.
Councilmember Danuski.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Congratulations.
Yay!
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's get to work.
All right. Staff report.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a couple quick things. Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we're going to close on Kenmore Village this Friday, right? That's right. So we should get a check that we can cash this Friday. So we're excited about that. Also, just right before the city council meeting, one of our squad cars got in a car accident at the corner of 175th and 68th. No one's hurt. And that's what I love about contracting with police. That's the only question I have to ask. I don't have to ask about the vehicle and whether it's going to be replaced or not, or who's liable. You know, contracting for police is a beautiful thing. So under staff report, we also have the school district boundary adjustment letter, and Nancy Owsley was kind enough to draft it up for your review. So if you could take a look at that and tell us if we're on the right track or if you have any changes.
Yeah, Councilmember Curtis.
In general, I think that the letter had the tone that I was looking for, sort of that gentle, conciliatory, we'd like some help, but we don't want to be confrontive. There was one phrase, though, right at the end, the last paragraph, that just didn't strike me quite right, and it was the one, we ask that you reconsider the boundary changes for Kenmore students to allow them to be proud Kenmore Vikings at Inglemore High School. It sort of has an implication that if you graduated from Bothell, that would be not so good. And so it just felt a little negative, so I was thinking if a possibility would be for Kenmore students to allow them to graduate from Inglemore High School. Just take away the Kenmore Vikings part. I don't know what the Bothell mascot is, but I'm sure it's just as good for those who graduate from Bothell.
It's not.
Of course, you do have their statement, one city, one school, one team, what Bothell is promoting. So, in any event, any other questions, comments? Everything else okay? Everybody in agreement on that change?
Sure.
Yep.
Deputy Mayor.
One other thing, and maybe I'm missing it here, so I'm scanning it through it again. One of the things that came out last Monday, I thought, was that all the determinations as to who goes where and was based on numbers of students in geographic areas versus capacities of the different schools, and also the complexities of getting students to those schools with the busing situation. They had not, and they admitted they had not taken into consideration the impact on ethnic groups, groups of students and so on, and the psychological impact on them. And we've got a pretty special or significant group within the Kenmore Elementary of English second language families, and there was some discussion last week about a major negative impact on these ethnic groups, splitting them up into different schools after elementary school. And I don't know, is there some mention of that consideration in the letter? And I think that's a major change that they had not been thinking of, and they admitted it last week. And I think it's a major factor for a lot of the kids that are involved in this switch. So some wording to that effect I'd appreciate.
Yeah, certainly not splitting down socioeconomic boundaries. I mean, I think that's a big concern given the fact that Kenmore Elementary is the highest rate of students participating in the free lunch program of any school in the North Shore system. So I'd certainly want to be careful of that. Anything else? All right, fine. So we got a couple of suggestions and a change there. City Manager.
Yeah, so also in your understaff report is a letter from King County regarding the water taxi service expansion study. And they have asked different jurisdictions, including Kenmore, if we want to be included in that study. I'm recommending that the answer is yes. I don't think it commits us into anything. And so in your packet is a letter that addresses the things they asked us to address, like community interest, potential landing sites. Just this morning, I got some great additional edits from the mayor and a couple of my coworkers. So what I just hand delivered to you just now are some additional edits. And Nancy, you had a suggestion as well just this afternoon. What was that again?
Spear, students and staff.
Mm-hmm.
Shuttling.
The fact that they've increased shuttle trips between downtown and the main campus, that would be reflected in this. That would be my understanding.
Councilmember Curtis?
It seems like when this came up in the past, the term passenger ferry service was used, and I don't remember specifically hearing water taxi. Does that mean the vehicle has gotten smaller, or we're just recycling the name?
I was wondering the same thing. I don't have an answer. Does anybody else know the answer to that?
There was a couple
One's
of
more politically correct.
that were built that I think they're talking about utilizing on the lake. And it's inconsistent with the water taxi service that they're using over West Seattle.
See, when I hear taxi, I picture myself standing on the end of Logboom Pier hailing a taxi, you know. So.
My understanding is it's going to be a couple hundred passenger vessel.
Oh, okay.
That sounds more like a ferry to me than a taxi.
And supposedly from what Councilmember Dembowski is saying, that is that the times would be equivalent to the bus. So you would not lose any time.
Under potential destinations from Kenmore, I had suggested drop-off points in Lake Union all the way up to Ballard and Fremont, but the mayor had pointed out that the speed limit there is so low that it would probably not make it worth it. And he had suggested Leschi and Madison Park Dock, which make more sense.
I have a question on that. You know, even since this came up, 3 years ago or 4 years ago, when you look at what has happened at South Lake Union in the last 4 years, it's phenomenal relative to even with that slower, because I know it's a no wake once you hit the cut at Lake Washington or at University of Washington. But even with that, if it could go directly to South Lake Union, I think that would be pretty incredible.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, if certainly, I know that they're looking at, the times. Again, it's all time, how long it's going to take, because if it offers a viable alternative to other routes, and yeah, I think
because they've got all those jobs now that literally you could walk to once you get off the ferry, which didn't even occur. Yeah, I mean, if you could dock at South Lake
exactly.
Union.
Especially Amazon people in that.
Yeah.
And so with the millennials not wanting to own cars and stuff, then yeah, I think it works out. Yeah. Deputy Mayor.
Plus, you've got the streetcar that leaves right from the museum, Mohi there, and Wooden Boat Center, short walk from where the ferry would land. You've got people that are working down in that South Lake Union area that also are employed at the University of Washington Medical Center, and they're going back and forth. So you could, I don't think we should eliminate it from the letter.
Okay.
Just explore the possibilities of it.
Well,
Just for us to make the decision that it's not economical to do that, I don't think.
This is for years of work with the ferry district, but
Yeah.
but they don't have any idea where it would land down there. There's no idea where it would.
So I could put South Lake Union and back in. Is that all right?
There's no dock there yet.
Okay.
Sure, there's a dock there.
Not's been designated for the ferry.
Well, maybe not, but
I mean, there's
we
lots
don't
of
have one
docks.
on Kenmore that's been designated either.
Close.
No. So my point is, I wouldn't want to eliminate it from the letter, explore the possibilities of continuing on down South Lake Union.
Okay.
Even at the slow speed, the no-wake speed, it could probably get from University of Washington to South Lake Union just as fast as a bus could or a car could from there to there. So,
And to that point, see, I think the difference is now you wouldn't have to transfer anywhere. I mean, before or any other of the stops, if you're going to Seattle, you have to get on light rail, you have to get on a bus, or you have to somehow get there. But if you could actually get to Lake Union, South Lake Union, you wouldn't have to have those other alternative means.
Well, I think you're correct in that with all of the cuts that have happened now throughout the system, that it certainly, even if it took 40 minutes, it certainly might be more viable than what the alternatives are. So I know the ferry committee that I served on is certainly looking at all sorts of alternatives.
So I'll leave it in.
Okay. And that's all I have, Your Honor.
All right. Next item is comments and reports and initiatives. Councilmember Smith.
I would just like to add that went to 2 fantastic events here locally last week, and one was the volunteer event that the city put on, and staff did a fantastic job, and I think Stacy helped there too. I got to participate as a get in line and eat burrito participant. But
You won something too.
What's that?
You won something too.
I gave it back.
Oh, you gave it back. Good for you.
A real volunteer. So anyway, I really appreciate it. I thought it was really a really well-done event. I didn't even do the bowling part, but I'm sure that was fun too. But what I did see at the 192 was fun. And then the next night, or the next afternoon, with our city manager's rock star presentation at the chamber meeting was really good. That was probably the most enthusiastic community event with, cross-section of North Shore School Board to business leaders to whoever there, and that was a fun lunch and really well done by our city manager.
Councilmember Sperry.
Well, the volunteer event, I think, first of all, as Brent said, it was very well done, and I learned some things. It was, first of all, it was astounding the amount of hours and the amount of people that are involved in our city. But one of the things I didn't realize was how many students that are in the adult transition program that work and do different tasks around City Hall, and I thought that was really special.
Councilmember Curtis.
Another event that happened that week was also the Kenmore High School Chamber Orchestra, and it was fantastic, and I hope we do it every year. It's kind of one of those things, not too many people turned out, but if you do it several years in a row at the same time, you kind of get a little bit of habit going there. And they said that's a great time of the year because they're like preparing for this competitions, so they're like at the peak of their performance. And so one more practice is great for them.
Councilmember Herbig.
Nothing to report.
You haven't been too busy. I couldn't do what you do, so. Councilmember Danuski.
Nothing from me.
Deputy Mayor.
Last Thursday, I attended the Economic Development Council Investors Board meeting down at the Rainier Tower, and there were a lot of visiting businesses that were there who were contemplating or had become new investors in the EDC. I sat next to a young techie guy who liked baseball, and one day he was watching the Mariners game, and he thought, I wonder if there's some seats in this stadium where you're more likely to catch a foul ball. And baseball's got tons of statistics about players, right, in games. But they didn't have any statistics on fans. And so they were able to find out where the foul balls landed, and so he developed a database of all this and a probability of different seats that might be a higher possibility of catching a foul ball. They're using this in marketing. They've established other fan-based statistics. And this is just in this techie's mind. All of a sudden, who'd have thunk, to look into this? But he's selling these programs to several different Major League Baseball teams now. So, here's an entrepreneur who's just really capitalized on a questioning thought that he had as he was watching a ball game, and look where it's led him. It was fun to listen to. There was also a good presentation by the Mariners business head of business. I can't remember his name. It was really good. Chris Mefford, the economist who works with the EDC quite often and the economic forecast and so on, he gives at every one of the meetings a little short economic presentation. And it continues to be positive, slow gain in all indicators. Everything is looking up, 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 but not rapidly up, and he's comfortable with that. He'd rather see it just be slow and steady and continuing on a good rise. So that was good. Now, the other interesting thing is you were talking about the water taxi. I rode the bus for the first time last Thursday. I took the bus from Rite Aid down to the Rainier Tower, half a block away from the Rainier Tower. It cost me 75 cents as a senior. You're supposed to have a senior ID card, but they let me on anyway. I didn't have to argue about my age. But I got to the meet. It took 35 minutes from Kenmore to downtown. No parking, no nothing. It was slick. After the meeting, I went downstairs, went down the escalator out the 4th Avenue side of the Rainier Tower, and the whole block is a bus stop. And I was there for probably 3 minutes when the 522 came. I hopped on it and rode back out here for another 75 cents. Really slick. Today, I drove down because I needed a senior Orca card, okay? So I drive down to Wooden Boat Center and Mohi. And I remember Wooden Boat Center, so I parked in their stalls there free and hopped on the trolley car right there by the parking lot. Rode the trolley all the way down to Westlake Center, went down into the bus tunnel to the office, Metro office, to get my own senior Orca card. But as of today, it's not 75 cents a ride anymore. It's bumped up to $1 a ride. So I've got this loaded with $10 worth of rides. That'll get me downtown and back 5 times. So if you haven't ridden the bus, and I hadn't since junior high, I've always driven there. But the last few times I've had to drive downtown, it's been a pain and expensive. Parking, at least $23 for a 2-hour meeting. It's unbelievable. So this was a slick way to go. So recommend it. You got one too?
Welcome to the group.
I mean, you can't just go down and show your driver's license. You got to have your Medicare card and your Social Security proof and all that stuff.
Yep. Yeah, I've got quite a few meetings downtown. I've been taking the bus.
It's slick.
Often. So, all right. So, luncheon last Wednesday, I guess it was, with Rob. 120 people. I mean, there was a big standing O at the end, and you were really well received by the whole group. I mean, you had quite a story to tell, and so we certainly thank you for all of that news. So you did a really outstanding job.
Well, you guys made it easy to tell the story. Your leadership and vision and the resources and support you're giving us make it so fun and easy to tell. So that was the message I wanted to get across. And I said in my weekly update that, I don't think it was so much me as it was just the enthusiasm in the room for people to want to see a better Kenmore. And they're just so excited to see a city council and city hall behind a transformative process for Kenmore and all the exciting things that are going on.
So Wednesday night, as Councilmember Curtis has indicated, we had a very small group here enjoying the Inglemore Wind Ensemble. I'm sorry that more people didn't come out for it. We did try to advertise it fairly heavily. During the luncheon, we were treated to the student body president, who talked about different things going on at Inglemore, and she mentioned that one of the students at Inglemore had a full ride scholarship to Yale University. So when I was presenting our $1,500 check to the high school, I was making some comments about the about the student body president who was telling us about a student at Inglemore, who received a full ride scholarship, and somebody in the orchestra pointed out, well, that's her. And the second violinist rather sheepishly stood up and said, that's me. So, I mean, it was kind of difficult at times during this presentation of the check to the people, talking about the students. We are so fortunate to have that quality of school in our community. And the quality of students, the kids, that we have here in Kenmore. I mean, we're really, truly a lucky community. And back to them breaking up our students, with that asset in the city, it's just sad to see them trying to break some of it up. So the other thing is Hank Aaron. I think from what everybody has seen of Hank, and I know there's been a few council members have seen Hank, and some of the discussions that have gone on about Hank, that the deputy mayor has been looking at branding the city for a number of years and trying to find something unique that we could sort of hang our hat on and try to publish. And so it's come up in whatever that maybe we want to consider using Hank as the official city mascot. That there could be a number of places that Hank could be. I had talked with Kent Sturgis over the weekend about perhaps getting a children's book written, and Kent was saying that probably maybe the thing to do would be the high school students involved, and we would certainly want Kent to illustrate it if he was so inclined. And then the thought was entertained about perhaps if we had some copies printed up of this children's book, that we could hand it out to some of the first grade students in Kenmore that could learn a little bit about the city and when they're learning to read. So there's just so many different things we can do. And so I don't know, what are other people's thoughts here? A lot of you have seen Hank, so Hank is not a stranger.
Well, I'll tell you, I think it's great. I think it's all the things that you like. It's fun. It brands your city. It's creative, and you can use it in so many different ways. There's all kinds of different things, and like you're talking about a book, but it could be there's endless ways you could use it as a promotional thing, and it gets to when Rob's talking about happy citizens. That's like the epitome of what happy is. It puts a smile on your face. It's a cartoon, and so I love the idea. And secretly, I'm really envious because I wish I could do what he does, because I would love to be able to illustrate like that.
Yeah, it's an amazing job you've done. It really is. Anybody else? Dr. Curtis.
So I know my daughter suggested that we have a heron family out here in this little area so people could dress them up, so have them like people size, and so like the suburban folks down there in Fremont. So maybe Hank and the family could do other things too.
We got to start with Hank, right? And he's got to find a girlfriend and whatever. We got to let this develop here. Proper courtship, right?
He needs to hang out.
Nigel's sitting there shaking his head.
He could see there could be a real natural here. You tie in Hank, and maybe he has a spouse someday, and then he's part of the Kenmore incubator.
But he starts at the 192, right?
Then we have baby Hanks.
Kent's going to be busy.
Anybody else? Councilmember Sperry.
I don't know if you're going to have any time to build that road. Well, we were introduced to Hank Aaron. I think the city manager, we went up and obviously saw the poster for 522, and I think that's going to be fun to see if people, pick up on that or what they say about that. But anyway, I think the way it was brought up to us is as a possible mascot and somehow incorporated in the town green. And after I thought about it a while, I thought, instead of him being on a roof somewhere, you do want whatever statue or figure or whatever where people can take pictures with it, because that's the type of thing where people will send those pictures everywhere of them and the heron, Hank and whatever family he ends up acquiring.
You remember the frogs, right? Trying to find the frogs?
Yeah, I was going for crows, but I'm giving up on the crows, so, okay.
Heron might work, huh?
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it, but I don't like Hillary. It could be Harriet.
Could be Harriet.
Hank and Harriet, maybe. But we've all always cherished our heron down here at Swamp Creek, and we've identified with that, and we've thought about heron sculptures and so on. But I think this adds a little levity to the whole thing, and I think it's terrific. With the baseball fields and so on, we could have Hank out at the baseball fields with a bat hitting a home run. Hank Heron? Sure.
Now we need a costume designer.
But waiting for the interurban in front of Rite Aid down here might be a good idea, too. Yeah.
Councilmember Danuski.
People really liked the Target Zero Facebook posts with the Rudolph and Rudy doing all that, so maybe Hank can get involved there.
Yeah, and Your Honor, Richard Sawyer was, I have to say, Richard Sawyer was actually advocating for Bernie the Beaver, so there you go.
To beat him out.
Those water management guys.
So I think if nobody's objecting too loudly, if the city manager could look into it and see what we can do to make him a city mascot, and how we can acquire the use of a potential copyright or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
And use him instead of a regular heron for the bike racks.
Yeah, that's the thought too. Yeah, use Hank Heron for the bike racks, the bike
Or at
racks.
least one of the herons.
Yeah, at least one of them.
Yeah. There could be a sculpture like that.
So a cartoony sculpture bike rack? Is that what you're looking for?
Maybe one of them.
Possible.
I'll see what they can do.
We've already got the drawing,
Yeah.
so.
It might cost more to be more artistic like that, but
Yeah.
we can find out.
So anyway,
It's exciting.
it is. It's really exciting to find something like this that just brings us all together, because we've all been looking for something, right, to sort of market the city. And so Hank may lead the way.
Yeah. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you very much. All right, executive session pursuant to our CW 42.30.1101 on potential litigation. We're going to adjourn to executive session for
20 minutes, and our city attorney is going to call in.
All right, and we will be back then in 20 minutes. And how are we going to do the video here? Do we want to kill the video for 20 minutes and then bring it back on?
I'm not the expert who do that.
That may be the way to do, rather than just leaving dead air for 20 minutes. Okay? Let me know when you're live. So we are going to extend the executive session for 15 more minutes, and we will then come back. We're going to extend the executive session for 3 more minutes.
For a company that doesn't exist.
Yeah, well, to me, the fact that they're not the corporations that say they are in the ILA,
All right.
it voids the
We're going
contract.
to. Yes, video's back on. All right, so we're out of exec session. No action will be taken, and Unless there's anything additional to come in front of us, we are adjourned.
Well, when does your flight leave on Wednesday? 6:03.